Hello everyone, GoldenNova here, and this was not on my bingo card to be honest. As long as I've known the Zexal era, Umbral horror has been a joke, a pile of monsters that flailed about in a pitiful attempt to exceed summon, and thus never made any kind of respectable splash competitively. No, that's not fair to bring up. These cards were struggling to deal with kitchen table levels of Yu-Gi-Oh! Which is outrageous, because their wielder, the absolutely unhinged Vector, was the driving force behind so much of the plot. They're a dark force, not to be trifled with, but the closest they've had to a notable showing is as part of canine lists as a profitable rank 5 that they can make. And that's only because they go through Shark's stuff to do it. But here we are in the year of our dawn, 2026, and we are getting a new batch of Umbral horror cards in Beyond the Brave, and by God, they're looking pretty scary. And my patrons have made it their mission to make me talk about it, so get ready to draw a line from our shameful past to a brighter and darker future with Umbral horror explained. Okay, before we get into the new stuff, let's get the old stuff out of the way, because basically none of it is going to be relevant. But we cover all the cards involved in any archetype here on the GoldenNova Explains the Card because he reads the card series. It's the reason you're all here! So what's up with Umbral horrors? Well, aside from having a name that will get me demonetized if I'm not able to enunciate the R's enough, they're a series of dark fiend monsters, unless stated otherwise, and their gimmick is trying to assemble a bunch of level 4 monsters to make number 104 Masquerade, which is one of those Xyz monsters that needs 3 material, not just 2. Very fancy. Not only is that a pain, half the original monsters for the theme aren't even level 4. You've gotta level modulate for it, for crying out loud. Umbral Horror, Will-o'-the-Wisp, is a level 1 monster with 0 attack and defense, and when this card is normal or special summoned, you can target an Umbral Horror monster you control or that's in your grave, except this card. This card's level becomes the current level of that monster, and when this attack position monster is destroyed by battle and sent to the grave, and was in face-up attack position at the start of the damage step, destroy the monster that destroyed this card. Now, I'm going to try and give the level modulation nonsense as much of a pass as possible. It is kind of a staple with more advanced strategies that can give a theme a bit more flavor. Instead, I'm going to deride the fact that this card wants you to lose to use it effectively. Like, I'm all for a good battle trigger. It's classic Yu-Gi-Oh! You attacked my hidden monster to get to my life points, but as it turns out, you're the one that's been tricked courtesy of my man-eater bug! But Will-o'-the-Wisp says, hey, if you don't manage to use me as Xyz material, I'm only going to trade for a monster if you also eat all the damage from it. Like, that's so unnecessarily cruel, and last I checked, Vector was all about torturing the opponent. I'd fire the darn thing myself if I could, but, you know, it's already made of fire. Umbral Horror Ghost is a level 2 monster with 200 attack and defense, and during your main phase, you can special summon this card, and a level 4 or lower fiend type monster from your hand, but you can't normal summon or set during the turn you activate this effect. Which means this is kind of like getting an extra normal summon, but not giving you the benefit of actually normal summoning, if that applies. The problem here is already quite clear. If the other monster in your hand is Will-o'-the-Wisp, it's not going to be able to modulate to 4, assuming an empty graveyard. That opens up a rank 2 play, admittedly, but that's the purview of another terrible Xyz deck, and I swear, if Malice Vorus somehow gets playable support in my lifetime, I'll eat my spoons. I do like that this could potentially help in other Fiend decks to deploy them, but any modern theme that needs an effect like that probably already has it. They're not looking for Zexal-era jank to fill the gaps. Turns out the dev team isn't designing cards to sell packs of Primal Origin anymore. Those are all taken care of. Umbral Horror Ghoul is a level 4 monster with 1800 attack and 0 defense, and once per turn you can make this card's attack 0, and if you do, special summon an Umbral Horror monster with 0 attack from your hand. Let's just hope that Ghost isn't your only option, cause for some reason, despite them making their 0 attack status a kind of trademark, Ghost just has some, and it's not even a good amount. This also sadly doesn't combo with other copies of itself because of that base 1800, which means the only 2 on-theme options, at least out of the old cards, is Wisp thanks to the level modulation, and our next card. But like, you can see what I mean when I say this theme was laughable, right? It's actively fighting itself to keep it from playability. Even in the context of the new support, where we now have several Umbral Horror monsters that fit the bill, it's just so clunky, it's hardly worth considering. Quite the ghoulish scenario, don't you think? Umbral Horror Unform is a level 4 monster with 0 attack and defense, and when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard while attacking a monster, you can special summon 2 Umbral Horror monsters from your deck. Yeah, I mean, what else can be said about this? It's a step up from Wisp, at least the 4 levels are printed on the card, but Unform isn't satisfied with just getting hit for massive damage. You have to initiate the pain train by running face first into an opponent's monster. This does get you 2 material, summoning any combination of Wisp, Ghoul, or Unform gets you 2 materials to use, but it's the principle of the matter. The deck is taunting you for having spent the time and energy to use it. In fact, I need to point out probably the most galling thing so far. We've jumped through several hoops to get this card online, but none of them have done anything to help us get 3 material onto the board. It's sufficient for making your standard rank 4, but we're supposed to be aiming for a 3 material monster, and the card that has us trading in our health for bodies only gets a 66.6% repeating of what we need as highway robbery. It's turned a beloved GOAT format era strategy of crashing recruiters from a sly tactical maneuver into a jester's display. And the sooner we can forget about these cards, the better. Number 104, Masquerade, is a rank 4 light spellcaster monster with 2700 attack and 1200 defense, requiring 3 level 4 monsters as material. During either player's battle phase, when an opponent's monster's effect is activated, you can detach an Xyz material from this card to negate the activation, and if you do, inflict 800 damage to your opponent. And once per turn, you can send the top card of your opponent's deck to the graveyard. And here it is, folks, the payoff for all our hard work, and it's fine. It's just fine. A monster negate is cool, but only working during the battle phase gives your opponent plenty of time to work around it. Not to mention, it doesn't even destroy the monster that you're targeting. You just hit your opponent with an Ukazi and tell him to have a nice day. Oh, and you get to mill him each turn. That's cool, and not like every other deck ever made has positive graveyard interactions or anything. It is flavorful to the anime, as far as I know. Vector takes great pleasure in stripping people's decks of cards before they can even be used, but if you're gonna torture someone, you have to do it with some real bite. Otherwise, you're just being a nuisance. Number 104 Masquerade is basically the equivalent of your opponent doing the "I'm not touching you" bit, and if your deck's worth its salt, you'll be able to snap that finger pretty quickly. Number Chaos 104 Umbral Horror Masquerade is a rank 5 Dark Spellcaster Xyz monster with 3000 attack and 1500 defense, requiring 4 level 5 monsters as material. When this card is special summoned, you can target a spell or trap card on the field and destroy that target. And if this card has number 104 Masquerade as an Xyz material, it gains this effect. Once per turn during either player's turn, when a monster effect is activated on your opponent's side of the field, you can detach an Xyz material from this card to negate the activation, and then you can send a random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard, and if you do, have your opponent's life points. Now, this is a card that can strike fear into any duelist. While it wouldn't reach its full potential until Nash Knight started handing out free Chaos Xyz evolutions for all the variants, it does prove that this card is a force to be reckoned with. Incidental back row helps to cut down on some retaliation, or at the very least baits it out, and now on-field monster effects become quite risky. While we still don't destroy what we negate, the random discard can be devastating, and the damage is significantly upgraded as long as your opponent isn't at less than 1600. Taking 800 is one thing, but paying full price for a Solemn Judgment and getting none of the benefits cuts down your margin of error significantly. This card has proven to be worth the effort even nowadays, and I commend them for having some value through all the cruft, even after all these years. Turns out, it's always a good time to mask up. Rounding out our old support is a strange piece of tech, Corrupted Keys, a normal trap card that has you targeting a face-up Xyz monster that you control to special summon 3 Umbral Horror Mirage tokens, which are level 1 Dark Fiend monsters with 0 defense, whose attack is the same as the current attack of the Xyz monster that you targeted with this effect. They can't attack directly, nor be tributed except for a tribute summon, and when that face-up Xyz monster leaves the field, destroy those tokens. Yeah, I guess this can be kinda deadly. Xyz monsters can get pretty big, so getting to essentially quadruple your available attack power is pretty scary, but the restrictions keep this from being a true threat. There are some ways to zero out a monster's attack while making it immune to battle destruction, so making your own direct attack is possible, and limiting their tributality does nothing to keep them from being used as link material, but the Call of the Haunted-esque tethering makes it just as likely that you're going to get all of your advantage dumpstered. Suffice it to say, Corrupted Keys doesn't really have this game on lock. Alright, that's all the old cards. You can forget about most of them, they're going right in the garbage. Let's talk about the new stuff. Gorgonic Umbral Horror is a level 4 rock monster with 1200 attack and 0 defense, and while on the field, you can't special summon from the extra deck except to summon number Xyz monsters. If you control no monsters, or all monsters you control are Umbral Horror monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, add a non-rock Umbral Horror monster from your deck to your hand. And this card can be treated as 2 materials for the Xyz summon of a number Xyz monster that requires 3 or more material. Okay, so we're going right off the rails with this one. As is the way with New Age card design looking back at the older themes, it takes as many references to the source material as possible and crams it in, while peppering it with relevant effects. And this is Exhibit A. Gorgonic is another series of cards in the show, namely the one used by Vector before they started their Baryon phase of existence. Likewise, Gorgonic never got its chance to shine, so we get a nice parallel here. And it turns out the sum is greater than the whole of its parts, because this is a fantastic starter that most decks would kill for. It's a free summon plus a search. And it also counts as double material, a design space that the most recent Shark cards tested, and it seems to have stuck. And thank goodness, this turns the process of summoning Masquerade into a dream, and is much more worth the effort now. This is the beginning of great things for Umbral Horror. In fact, dare I say it, it rocks. Shining Umbral Horror is a level 4 light monster with 0 attack and 2000 defense, and if you normal or special summon any number of Umbral Horror monsters and or Masquerade Xyz monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, draw a card, then if you drew an Umbral Horror monster, you can special summon it. And it can also be treated as 2 materials for the Xyz summon of a number Xyz monster that requires 3 or more materials. Yeah folks, turns out that even the deepest, darkest pit of despair can have some glimmer of hope in it, which is, of course, a huge lie. It turns out that Shining was an archetype used by Vector while undercover as their human Sona, Kokichi Oma!
Wow, another reference we don't get. You must be a hardcore loser.
Which is my number 1 stupidest bit I've ever come up with in the middle of recording, which had a similar motif of bright and friendly monsters being manipulated from beyond by sinister forces. And it also has a little bit of Star Seraph sovereignty in that effect, because we've got to steal from all the Baryon Emperors. It's just protocol at this point. This is another Unreal extender that continues the trend of acting as 2 materials, but this time it makes sense because it's casting 2 shadows. Come on, Gorgonic, get your act together, we're looking for theming here! 1000 Umbral Horror is a level 4 monster with 0 attack and defense, and as a quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the grave to place a copy of 7th Baryons from your hand or deck face up in your field zone. Also, you can't special summon from the extra deck until the end of your next turn, except Xyz monsters. And if any number of Xyz monsters are special summoned while this card is in your grave, you can special summon this card. Also, you take no effect damage from your card effects for the rest of this turn. Now, why in the world would you need to protect against your own effect damage? Oh, don't you worry, there's a very funny answer for that coming up in the Spell and Trap card section. Pitching it to get 7th Baryons into rotation is a great setup, and without tipping my hand too soon, is a fantastic consistency piece for sculpting your hand. We'll dive more into this card as it becomes relevant, but just know that I'm behind this card 1000%. The Umbral Horror is a level 4 spellcaster monster with 500 attack and 1500 defense, and if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add an Umbral Horror monster from your deck to your hand except a copy of this card. And you can banish this card from your grave, then target a Masquerade Xyz monster that you control to special summon from your extra deck a number monster that is 1 rank higher than that monster that you control by using it as material. And this is treated as an Xyz summon, transferring its materials. Okay, strap in because this one's a doozy. at least for me, the guy who's only ever been exposed to Zexal plot points via the cards. So before Vector goes mask off and is acting as Ray, he ends up getting buddy-buddy with Yuma, becoming best friends. And with all suspicion dispersed, gifted Yuma a series of V cards, I will not be making a joke here, meant to enhance Yuma's deck. The problem is that they were a big plant, and when the reveal happens, Vector hit Yuma with a card that sent every V card in his deck to the grave, as well as an additional 5 cards per V sent, almost decking Yuma in the process, which is why we see some random discard and milling effects among the Umbral horrors. It's supposed to play into the anime-ness of it all. All of the V cards were spellcaster monsters, which is why this Umbral horror is too. Importantly, you can use its rank up effect to go into any number monster that has the appropriate rank, not just our on-theme ones. So you can turn base Masquerade into a rank 5 monster, and any of our Chaos evolutions into rank 6s. And of course, being another tutor is stupendous. Gorgonic and V find each other, and if you have Shining around, you can get another monster, a draw, and a potential summon. In this instance, the V stands for value. Number 104, Masquerade Vane, is a rank 4 light spellcaster Xyz monster with 2700 attack and 1200 defense, requiring 3 level 4 monsters as material. Once per turn, you can detach a material from this card to add a Barion's Speller Trap card from your deck to your hand. And a monster that was Xyz summoned using this card on the field as material gains this effect. If it's Xyz summoned, activate this effect. Your opponent can banish 4 cards with different attributes and 1 spell from their deck, and if they don't, you banish the top 10 cards of their deck. Here we go, folks. We no longer have to settle for a battle phase negate. Now we can just spend all of our materials on a combo extender. Okay, so maybe base Masquerade is better in a straight fight, but the real nasties come into play when you rank it up. Either banish 5 cards or 10 from your deck. Which way, Western man? This is another reference to the Big Mill Blast from Vector. The 4 V monsters sent to the graveyard were Wind, Earth, Fire, and Water, so that's 4 different attributes, plus the Search spell. So, as the opponent, you're given a chance to relive the first part, or go through the second half where you get super milled. Might as well have called this card number 104 Masquerade Vane Betrayal for how on the nose it is. Despite the massive improvements, Vane is actually pretty bland, at least as far as the effect goes. The fit is immaculate. Between the coat and the accessories, this guy is a real ring leader. Number Chaos 104, Umbral Horror Masquerade Victory, is a rank 5 spellcaster monster with 3000 attack and 1500 defense, requiring 4 level 5 monsters as material. Once per turn as a quick effect, you can detach a material from this card, then target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. And if this card battles an opponent's monster during damage calculation, this card's attack and defense become that opponent's monster's attack or defense, whichever is higher, plus 100 during damage calculation only. And if this card destroys a monster by battle, send a random card from your opponent's hand to the grave, and if you do, have your opponent's life points. That sounds familiar. While not a strict upgrade over the original, Victory here has a lot of great reasons to be included in your lineup. It always wins battles thanks to another silly reference to an anime battle trap, and moves the hand rip and life point halving from negating a monster effect to running over something in battle, which you will always win. Heck, the removal is better because it's not on summon. It's a quick effect that you can use at any time to bop off any card. No negation to be found on this beastie, but hey, sometimes you've got to play interrupts, and other times you've got to just steal a scythe and a spear from some acquaintances and go to town. But, at some point we have to examine what it means to be a horror. This card is clearly visible, made of bright colors, and looks badass, but I'm not scared of it, especially with a popped collar. Come on. The scariest thing here is Victory's fashion sense. Our last monster isn't really on theme, but it released with the rest of these, and, it's close enough. CXC's Chaos Barian Hope Dragon is a rank 7 Dark Dragon Xyz monster with 0 attack and defense, requiring 3 or more level 7 monsters as material. Though you can also Xyz summon this card by using a number C monster that you control with a number between 101 and 107 in its name, transferring its material. This card gains 1000 attack for each material attached to it, and while this card has a number C monster as material, your opponent can't add cards from the deck to the hand except by drawing them. And once per turn, you can detach a material from this card to attach the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck to this card. So, I'm already sick of this guy. It's not exactly difficult to summon, especially with how streamlined these new Barian support drops have been. Is now a new Thunder Dragon Colossus, and just gets 1,000 points stronger every turn while stealing your cards. This card is a parallel to CXC's Bury in Hope, which can gain the effects of other numbers while slowly losing attack, while Bury in Hope Dragon is steadily gaining power. I think overall this is the better pick, especially with the over 100 numbers and their chaos variants being easier to access than ever, and makes for a really annoying hurdle to jump over on a monster I'm worried is going to be too easy to access. I just hope my fears are overblown. Okay, that's all the monsters. Let's talk about those spells and traps. Buryin's Hope is a normal spell card that special summons an Umbral Horror monster or Masquerade Xyz monster from your hand or grave. Then you can make the levels of all Umbral Horror monsters you control become the level of an Umbral Horror monster on your field or in your grave. You can also banish this card from your grave, then target an Xyz monster that you control to attach a number Xyz monster from your extra deck or graveyard to it. Okay, lots to talk about here. Having an archetypal monster reborn ain't too shabby. You can either get back your material, or because it can bring back Masquerade monsters, you can even get back Victory. You won't be able to use the removal effect, but it's still a dangerous combatant. And when gathering our material, you've also got the option of taking a page from Will-o'-the-Wisp's book and actually modulating your monsters. With the new monsters, you won't really have to worry about this for general lines of play, but if you're feeling rancid and want to play Wisp and Ghost to access rank 1 and 2 plays, I guess I can't stop you. But the grave effect is where this can get out of hand. Number C or CXC's monsters have extremely powerful effects, but you need to have their previous forms attached as material to unlock them, which meant you were generally only getting the full benefits of it if you went the hard way, making the base form, then using a rank up magic to perform the evolution. But with Buryin's Hope, if you ever cheat out one of those monsters, you can just attach their requisite rookie form right from the extra deck, or even the grave if you've already used it. This means it's not only good for cheating those chaos forms into play, it gives them all a level of longevity they've never known before, providing them a much stronger grasp on the situation. 7th Buryins is a field spell card that makes it so each player can only special summon non-number monsters from their extra deck up to twice per turn while this card is face up on the field. During your main phase, you can add an Umbral Horror monster from your deck to your hand, then discard a card. And during the end phase, each player takes 400 damage for each Xyz monster on the field. Yeah, we just keep covering more and more unruly cards. Yeah, a field spell helping you add some consistency to your deck is nothing new, that's fine, but now we've got floodgates to contend with. Thankfully, there is some wiggle room, and it only prevents extra deck summons, so your other special summons are good to go. But if you're looking to cycle through half of the contents of your extra deck for your combo, you're going to have to include a way to deal with this card, and early. I'm also concerned that this effect doesn't have any kind of qualifier to it. Like, it doesn't ask you to control an Umbral Horror monster or a CXC's monster, it just does that. And I've lived through enough Mystic Mind nonsense to know that if a deck can run a field spell to cause a gridlock, it sure as hell will. But the funniest thing about this card has to be the last effect, which appears to be in keeping with another bad Vector card, Sargasso the DD Battlefield, which punished Xyz summoning for both players. It also hits both players today, but that's largely to keep with flavor, and Y1000 gives you a way to shrug off that damage, so that only your opponent takes that burn every end step, which is so brutal. Like, the damage isn't going to be too severe each time, but it'll add up, and when you're on the deck that has 2 ways to have an opponent's life points, that gets a lot more scary, a lot more quickly. But I am left with one very striking question. 7th Buryins what? You can't just end a sentence on a possessive like that, it's not grammatically sound. Buryin's Seal is a counter trap card that you can activate when your opponent activates a spell card, trap card, or monster effect while you control a CXC's monster or a number C monster with a number between 101 and 107 in its name. Negate the activation, then you can attach a monster from either field or graveyard to an Xyz monster that you control. You can also banish this card from your grave to special summon 2 Umbral Horror monsters from your grave, but you can only use one effect of this card per turn and only once per turn. So if you need something to pitch off of Buryin's 7th and the idea of keeping an Omni Negate on hand isn't doing it for you, you've got a double Reborn that doesn't negate the effects of what you summon, so enjoy your V Umbral Horror search, folks. But yeah, the negation is pretty nasty. Search this out with Vayne, Chaos Xyz into Victory using the V Engrave, then Chaos Xyz again into Hope Dragon. Now you get to back up your boss monster with one get out of jail free card that also just so happens to recharge its batteries. The fact that you can take from your own grave means you can reactivate CXCs or number C monsters that have lost their earlier form, but I imagine the primary usage is going to be scooping up an opponent's monster. Non-targeting removal is so good. I love NTR! Alright, so that's all of the Umbral horror cards, but what do we do with them? Well, the game plan seems pretty straightforward. Cynics might call it boring. I'm feeling a little cynical. You build up to a big messed up dragon that limits your opponent's search capabilities, you post up a nasty field spell that puts a chokehold on the extra deck, and if you're having a hard time doing a decent chunk of battle damage, utilize your various burn effects to get you over the finish line. The premise of the core theme is already solid, we just need to find ways to help it go off faster, more consistently, and perhaps more safely with some added security. And if there are any other cards we can cheat out with our rule-breaking Xyz material effects, we might as well see if we can jam them in too. So what can we play to help them out? The new batch of Umbral horror cards is pretty strong, but aside from its latest counter trap card and our old Chaos Xyz evolution, we're pretty light on the negates. So to help round out the roster, we can play 7th Eternity. The Masquerades can get pretty big, giving you some wide coverage of monsters you can say no to, and while our CXC's Chaos Burying Hope Dragon is not an over 100 monster, Eternity can check if you have a monster with one of those as material, and it's gonna get enormous pretty quickly. How about some other numbers we can splash in? Thematically, it is possible to make number 102 Star Seraph Sentry if you use 2 copies of Shining Umbral Horror to fulfill the Lights Only condition. For that, you get a monster that can not only shut off another's effects, but cut its attack in half permanently. You can go for the Chaos Evolution if you want, but all you're getting is an upgrade to the negation that puts the attack to 0 instead of half. It also gets a better protection effect, but again, it's a nominal upgrade that sometimes has the chance to win you the game. You can also run Ragna Zero and Ragna Affinity for anime reasons, but Umbral Horror isn't any more uniquely qualified to handle this than any other rank 4 strategy, beyond the ability to skip to Affinity and attach 0 for free. We don't even have any attack modulating effects to help trigger them, so it's just a fun possibility. Heraldry Crest is also kind of bonkers. Not the original 69, nice, unless you find yourself up against an Xyz mirror match, which, hey, if Umbral Horror gets that good, maybe it will be useful. But mainly I'm talking about its alternate form, Shatter Stream. This pushes your multi-material effects to their absolute limit, because this puppy needs 4 material. And what do you get for it? Oh, nothing, just a trigger effect punishing your opponent's monster effects or attacks, destroying it before becoming the fearsome number 69 Heraldry Crest Dark Matter Demolition, sporting immunity to destruction and has a pseudo Dragostapeli effect stapled on. Fun! But these are just using our extra material effects. The Umbral Horror can rank up our Masquerades into any number monster that's 1 rank higher than them. Are any of these worth considering? Well, if you ever need to ward off a glut of effect damage, Greedy Saramea is at your fingertips. Utopia Beyond's ability to zero out an entire board's attack power can turn a game around like little else can, and that's, kinda it, I think. Like, you can also access both Doom Chimera Dragon and Chaos Chimera Dragon if you want to be even more anime, but really, that's what our new CXC's Dragon is supposed to do for you. Like, it's wild I can't really recommend Atlantis, a monster with one of the most brutal effects out there, despite it being fairly easy to pull off in this deck. But both our Umbral Horror Masquerades also have our opponent's life points, and you get to keep the battle phase while doing it. As for a silly tech pick, well, in general, Burying Hope's level manipulation effect isn't useful, but what if it was? What if we wanted to go into maximum anime nonsense? If you want to go down that rabbit hole, you'll have to play Umbral Horror Ghost, so that you can make all of your monsters level 2 when Burying Hope's effect resolves. With our multi-material effects, we can now very easily make number 43 Manipulator of Souls. You know, when I talked about the other half of this FTK in the Hades video, I thought this would take a lot longer to show up. But aside from that and the potential destruction immunity, there isn't much going on with this card. You'll need to upgrade it to High Manipulator of Chaos for something with more sauce, but you'll need a real rank up magic for that one since our on-theme cheats aren't compatible. Which, on top of giving an amazing attack boost, is a great reason to run Resurgam Xyz. And perhaps the funniest thing of all, with High Manipulator on board, those corrupted key tokens can now double attack. Who could pass that up? And that's all I have to say about Umbral Horror. Honestly, I'm kind of sad to see the theme get such a massive glow up. It was bad, sure, but it was known for being bad. In a game where so many archetypes aren't used simply for power creep reasons, Umbral Horror's design was so offensively counterintuitive that it lived on in infamy. The theme will see a bout of playability for now, but I'm worried where they'll stand a year or two from now. Will they still be known as the theme that never was, or hated for being a floodgate-centric combo pile like so many that have come before it, which perhaps is the greatest horror of all. But now I want to hear what you all have to say. Are Umbral Horror's new frights quite the delight, or does it trigger your fight or flight? Let me know down below, and as always, please be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, be sure to click on one of my videos in the sidebar to help me show up on your homepage, and be sure to share this video with somebody you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and save 5% on your order by using the coupon code GoldenNova at checkout while helping out the channel. It was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commanders, Upstairs Media and Ignavius, Nebula Navigators, 3rd Dynasty, Adam Zajdel, Ancient Wizard, Andrew Newman, Battle Axe, Beastsman, Charlie Mercury, Christopher Fuss, Clockswork, Eric, Frankie, Great Big Pillock, Groog, Hairbear, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Japan Man, Carp, Marion James E. Picata, Meme King, Muse Clark, Neon Yaminair, Orozco 09096, Rebel King Lucifer, Red Eyes Jackalow, RJ the Jank Monarch, That One Dumbass, The Critic of Innocence and The Wizard Moose, Cosmic Crusaders Animasta, and Thorak, Anything You Can Say, Blitzwolf, Chaz Ghost, Christopher Fuss, again, Cool Trainer Dark, Detenchi 67, Dr. Entity RIP, Drachenwald, Eki Bullock, Eva Padilla, Herbal D, Inblink, J.A. Flair, Julian Marquis, Kale the Dragon, Kryptonian Blurred, Lobomaru02, Manga Pages, Millennia Asta, Mr. Machina, Natiel Lee Alexander, Not Al Gore, Obsidian, Papa Cosmic, Puppycorn Game King, Rhyme Kairos, Rogue Wolf, Seraph SG, Shizuki Nijimura, Simic Toadstool, Stephen Huntsman, The Legendary Raven, The Queen of Time, Tiger X2476, Tristan O'Meara, Rider 2400, Zayden, Zaldreka, and Azentha, as well as all the lovely Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, get my videos early, be a part of these credits and other awesome perks, it would mean the world to me if you would check out the link to my Patreon in the description or consider joining as a YouTube member. And if you'd like to see another video centered on fiends that do devious stuff with low attack points, check out this video all about Umbral. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Wait, I forgot to mention that Nightmare Throne can search 1000 Umbral Horror to bridge into Barian 7th. Oh god, no, wait, come back!